While I absolutely love and adore homeschooling my kids, it often feels like an extreme act of self-discipline because there's nobody around to make you do it when you're all cozy in your home. I have read countless homeschooling books hoping to solve this problem, but actually what's helped me the most is just books basically about high performance habits, self-discipline, and time management, and then applying those principles to homeschooling. I talked about what specific books I recommend in my last video. I did, however, want to mention in this video an influencer that really and truly changed my life recently. Brooke Raybould made a short video on TikTok and Instagram that talked about this movement that has taken place with mom influencers in the last few years that emphasizes being relatable. There is an emphasis on the hardships of motherhood, and that trend is starting to have run its course as far as helpfulness goes. There is a sense of comfort in knowing that I'm not the only one who sometimes struggles to get out of bed, sometimes struggles to be present and intentional with my children, sometimes struggles to stick to my various chores and routines. However, constantly focusing on the hardship and on the hardships we all share tends to feed the problem. And so in Brooke's video, she talked about how she started being aware of the radio station she was listening to in her life by reading a little bit of a high performance book every single day. I have always prided myself on being someone who thrives in self-discipline, but the last several years that took a drastic turn and I was stuck in a funk I couldn't seem to get out of, and that one tip changed everything for me personally and especially for our homeschool routine. In my previous video, I mentioned books from author Cal Newport. I mentioned Essentialism. I mentioned The Compound Effect, and I mentioned The Slight Edge. Here, I also wanted to highly recommend The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, The 5 a.m. Club, and those are both by the same author, and 4,000 Weeks, Time Management for Mortals. Whatever you feed your mind is what you're going to believe in. So if you're constantly feeding your mind depressing thoughts about motherhood, eventually you will start to act on and believe in it. Even if you try to keep this narrative alive in your head that you know you still have to do the things and you know it's better this way, you have to pay attention to the radio station you're listening to. Reading is one of the simplest, cheapest, and most effective ways to change your life and turn it around. Read books. Now, I'm going to share a few of the most powerful nuggets that have turned me into a happy, consistent, self-disciplined homeschooling mom. These are principles that I have derived from the books I've read. But just know you're not off the hook for needing to read them just because I share these things with you. All right, number one is to get up before your kids. Now, everybody's going to give you a different amount of time. Some people will say 30 minutes. Some people will say 3 or 4 hours before your kids. I know that Brooke Raybould teaches, I think, 2 hours before her kids. I get up right now 1 hour before my kids. To me, the importance in it isn't how far in advance you rise before your children. It's just the leadership of it. You're not all rolling out of bed and whenever you feel like it. Life is not happening to you. It is happening for you. It is happening because of you and because of your actions. The point is the proactiveness behind it, the leadership to get up and wake up and have a calm but focused attitude for your kids to wake up to, which is also very courteous to them, so they can wake up to a bright and happy mom instead of half asleep mom. It's hard to explain how powerful it is to get up before your kids until you just do it for yourself. We're not insanely early risers. I just try to be consistent. I work late nights a lot. I'm working late at night right now. So I'm up at 7 and they're up at 8. Tip number 2 is to stick to a concise, a simple weekly chore to-do list. And when I say stick to it, I'm not going to emphasize super big what your chores are or how long you should spend on them here. That is so personal. Like, I don't care if you do house chores for 10 minutes a day or 2 hours a day. In my case, It's 30 minutes to an hour is all I really have. But there is another influencer, mainly on TikTok, but she's on Instagram too. Her name is Emma Seaborn. Absolutely adore her. She is also what I consider like a high performance homeschool mom. And she follows a weekly cleaning list that she shares frequently. And she always says that one of the things that will help you stick to it is to be okay with all areas of your house, all areas of your car and your life not being clean at the same time. The irony is that being okay with that is part of keeping a consistently clean home. So I have a day where I clean out my purse and I clean out my car, and the house is not as clean on those days. You have to let it go, and you have to put a cap on it and stop at the end of your time block. Trust the plan you create. Don't start from scratch every day. I don't know why, but I think as women looking at the fine detail all the time, we want to start from scratch every day. You know, we feel like at the time that I made this chore list, I didn't know that this was going to happen today. And now I feel overwhelmed because I need to stick to my routine and do the more urgent cleaning. Stop overthinking it. Trust in the plan you made. And my last tip number 3, is to treat your homeschooling routine like a well-oiled machine that you want to keep running. Now, there are plenty of homeschool parents out there who are going to say that they take each homeschool day fresh, with an adventurous spirit, with curiosity, that their kids lead more, they're not always learning the same things. There are all kinds of ways to homeschool. I'm just sharing what has made me most consistent and what has produced the best results in my children academically. And that has been to make it a system, to make it a routine, to do it the exact same every single day, like a job that you cannot miss and cannot be late for. We start at 9 a.m. with read aloud subjects, which takes about 45 minutes. They get a 5-minute break before one-on-one classes with mom resume. Then Daisy gets a 25-minute language arts lesson. Silas gets a 25-minute language arts lesson while she takes a break. Same with math. I alternate each of them, and then the day is done. I don't give my kids a say in who gets personal class time with me first. They don't get a say in what time homeschool starts. And honestly, there was a time where I would have felt like the kids should have more say, or that it was mean to not involve them more in some of the decisions about how I scheduled homeschooling. Keeping their routine the same tends to actually avoid a lot of fights between them and avoid a lot of meltdowns during class, because none of it is a surprise and they are mentally prepared. I have learned this the hard way. Trust me. And I'm still learning. I learn every year. Every year I have expectations for how homeschool is going to go. I think I'm a second generation and I've got all this experience, but I just keep learning. I just keep hitting bumps in the road. I just keep doing certain things wrong. I just keep starting over and watching more videos like this and reading more books that I hear about and listening to more podcasts. The constant work on ourselves will directly benefit your child. It will nurture them. It will help them grow. It will be a good example of leadership. And believe it or not, it will make homeschooling easier. I want to end with a bonus tip, which is all habits, routines, and rules for anything, but in this case, especially for homeschooling, should be held to a standard of reasonableness. So what I mean by that is that when you have it set in stone like I do, that homeschool happens this way, it happens on these days, don't make it a totally black and white rule. That seems like totally opposite to everything that I just said, but hear me out. There will constantly be spilled milk situations, and the most reasonable thing to do is not to stick to your black and white routine rules. The most reasonable thing to do when there are spilled milk urgent situations is not to let it seep into your carpet and dry because you have to stick by the laws you made. The most reasonable thing to do is to stop, clean it up, and then go back to your routine as efficiently as you can and let go of the rest. What we don't want to do is see everything else as urgent and use everything else as an excuse to not homeschool our kids because we really just don't want to do it and don't face the problems we're having with homeschooling. So, I have to do a load of laundry. I have to make the bed. I have to take this phone call. Well, balance the two. Balance creating urgency that isn't there to get around the thing you need to do with actual urgent situations that you do need to address. That is the difference between giving an honest effort and a dishonest effort. An honest effort is when you stick to your own values and guidelines and rules and routines within reason, within the boundaries of what is healthy for everyone. A dishonest effort is when you use your black and white rules or rationalize them away to do what you most feel like doing in the moment. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed these tips, I think you would really enjoy my 11-minute video class, Homeschooling Excellent Time Management. It's totally free. It's linked below, and it will continue to go into some of the things we talked about. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss next week's video too. I'll see you next time, guys. Bye.